Ag Bioscience, the #1 ag tech podcast globally, is now available on video. Hear from leaders and innovators across food, animal health, plant science, ag tech, and agriculture. Mondays at 6 a.m. on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, subscribe and leave us a review. It's the Ag Bioscience Podcast with Agronovis Indiana. Get more information at agronovisindiana.com.
The internet changed how we work. AI is changing what work gets done. A bank cut loan processing from days to hours. A student built an AI scheduler, improving on-time delivery from under 70% to over 90%. Most teams know AI matters, but aren't sure where to start. InAI is Indiana's statewide AI adoption effort, built with industry, academia, and community partners, helping you move from understanding to action. Visit inaiready.com.
I always say that St. Mary's feeds my soul.
What we do so well is make every student realize that her voice matters here.
You have a voice, you have opinions, we want to hear them.
St. Mary's College in South Bend, one of the few all-women's higher education institutions left in the nation. Located right across the street from one of the most prestigious Catholic universities in the world, the University of Notre Dame. St. Mary's has a close relationship with Notre Dame. Learn more about that, what's behind the college's surging enrollment numbers, and why donors are answering the bell in droves to raise more money for St. Mary's. St. Mary's President Katie Conboy, my guest this week on the Business and Beyond podcast, presented by PNC. And I'm pleased to be joined on the podcast this week by Katie Conboy, who is the president at St. Mary's College, very close to the University of Notre Dame in northern Indiana, and a lot of exciting things going on the campus with ramifications that I think will be long-lasting for the college as well. And Katie, thanks for taking the time to join me.
Well, it's great to be with you, Gerry, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. Things are great in northern Indiana. The sun is shining today, and we feel like it's kind of shining on St. Mary's right now, too. So thank you for acknowledging that we do have some fun things happening here, and I'm eager to talk with you about them.
Yeah, give us a thumbnail description of St. Mary's College. Many people know certainly of the institution, very close to Notre Dame, and I'm sure there's a close relationship there, but not a formal relationship, right? Give us the kind of the thumbnail description of St. Mary's College.
That's right. Well, St. Mary's is a Catholic women's college. Founded in 1844 by the Sisters of the Holy Cross. I like to tell people that one of the distinctive things about us is that we are part of a tri-campus community, and you could say that we are part of a family of institutions that share a zip code and a whole lot more than a zip code. So the University of Notre Dame was founded in 1842. I have my PhD from Notre Dame, so I have great affinity for the university as well. St. Mary's just 2 years later. And during that entire 182 years, we've shared so much with the university. Back in the 70s, there was a moment when a merger was contemplated. At that time, the sisters decided that they would remain independent, with the college remaining independent from Notre Dame. Notre Dame then began admitting women in 1972. So it is a wonderful relationship, but as you said, not a formal relationship in the sense that, we are not a college of the university, but our students can take classes across the three colleges here. Holy Cross College, founded in 1966, is the third. And our students enjoy all of the benefits of social life at Notre Dame as well as at St. Mary's. Most years, between 25 and 30% of the Notre Dame marching band is made up of St. Mary's students. Our students go to the games. They sit in the student section. And I like to say I might be the only president of a women's college that has her own Division I football team.
That's great. And a good football team at that. I didn't realize that's interesting that the merger was contemplated back in the 70s, huh?
Yes. Well, that was a time when a lot of colleges that had originally been founded for men decided to go co-ed. And some percentage of those had a sibling institution that they thought, how do we do this? Do we remain separate? Do we come together? And in our case, we thought it through. And we're happy. I wouldn't have a job if we had gone into the merger. And so I'm happy that St. Mary's has remained independent, and also happy and grateful for all the ways that we're able to collaborate with Notre Dame. We have a dual degree engineering program where, at any time, over 80 of our students are enrolled at St. Mary's, but also getting in 5 years, the degree from Notre Dame. We have 7 graduate programs in the Mendoza College of Business, where a 17-year-old can come to St. Mary's and know that she'll be able to get a degree here and move right on into a graduate degree at St. Mary's. A graduate degree at Notre Dame.
Yeah, very good. As I mentioned in the intro, a lot going on at St. Mary's, including something very important to every college and university in the nation. That's fundraising, and I'm sure it's something that probably feels like it never ends. But you've got the public phase of a major campaign, as I understand it, a record-breaking campaign. Talk about the campaign and maybe some of the unique things I think that you did during the campaign as well.
Sure. Well, our campaign, you're right, almost every college seems to be in campaign mode all the time, or at least quietly fundraising, even when they're not in campaign mode. I came to St. Mary's in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, but we knew we would probably need to begin planning for a campaign, which we really went into in earnest around 2022. And we call our campaign, the formal name for the campaign is Ring Out, Ring True. We named it that because we felt that ringing out is about sort of projecting into the future, and ringing true is remaining true to who you are and your foundations. And we also have a very distinctive class ring at St. Mary's. So graduates wear the ring very proudly. So they liked the idea of a ring being heralded in the name of the campaign as well. The campaign is really looking at a couple of different areas. We're wanting to do what we've always done, which is empower leaders. We want to enrich our community, and we want to enhance our campus. So this is not a classic capital campaign. It doesn't have a lot of capital projects as part of it. It's more of an endowment campaign. We're looking to raise in excess of $200 million. And I say in excess because we had a quiet internal working goal of $175 million. And by the time we went public with the launch, we had already raised $180 million. So we are seeing great support for the campaign. We think that the fact that we're also enjoying some wonderful enrollment success, we're building in many ways the programs that we have on campus, that this is resonating with our alumni, our friends, our donors, our parents, and they're making it possible for us to continue doing more.
Yeah, why do you think that is? Because in this day and age, donors obviously have lots of choices with what to do with their money. Challenging times for education, higher education, no question about it, around the country. Those are some big numbers. And why do you think the St. Mary's College equation, if you will, is resonating with donors?
Well, I think probably what resonates with donors is what resonates with prospective students as well, which is that I really think we're meeting the moment right now. The Sisters of the Holy Cross who founded us had this phrase that they always used as they thought about how they would grow and evolve. And they said, read the signs of the times and respond. And I think we evolve to meet the needs of the world. And right now, students are certainly looking for credentials. And many of our students are first in their family to go to college. About 31% of our students are first in their family to attend college or university. And about 28% of them are Pell eligible. So we are serving almost a third of our students who are high need individuals and who really are grateful for the access to higher education. Many of the people who went to St. Mary's in the past are also grateful for the access they had to a St. Mary's education. And so scholarships remain just a huge reason that people want to give back. They want to give someone else the opportunity that they had when they came to St. Mary's. And I think they're searching, those individuals, when they look for what to do with their funds, they like the fact that we are serving students in finding not just a credential, but finding meaning and mentorship and community and preparation for successful careers, but also for lives of impact. So I think that what resonates for our recruitment strategy also resonates with our donor base.
Those big fundraising numbers come at a time when there are many people out there questioning the value of a college degree. I mean, it's gotten a lot of attention, around the country and the value of a degree. As you go out, do you hear that from potential donors and others? And what's your response? How do you respond to those critics out there who contend that maybe the value of a four-year degree isn't what it once was?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons that public confidence in higher education is dwindling. One of them is the high cost. They look at the published numbers, the sticker price, as we say, and they feel it's out of reach for the common person. And I don't think we do ourselves that many favors in having a financial model that is hard for our consumer to understand because nobody really pays the sticker price.
All right. Yeah.
Their tuition gets discounted. They get scholarships and merit aid and need-based aid. And so there are many ways that the packages get put together to enable students to attend college. Here in Indiana, we have wonderful state aid for students who want to go to college. They just have to let the state know by the time they're in the eighth grade that they would like to be considered for the state-based scholarship, and it really helps them to cover a great deal of the cost. So if we have students who are 21st century scholars from Indiana, we meet all of their tuition, and we try to get that message out there. But I think not everyone reads everything. As I said, we have many who are first in their family to go to college. They don't have someone at home who can tell them, this is why you should go to college. This is what you're going to get out of it. The parents may not even always be confident that they're making the best investment by sending a student to a private liberal arts college.
Yeah.
And yet we can show them the kinds of outcomes for our students that are pretty remarkable. And so that story is the story that we have to tell. I do think there's one other thing that is part of the equation for dwindling confidence in higher education. And that is that many people are seeing alternatives to higher education. They're seeing training programs that allow students to go directly into work, in a way not unlike, the first half of this century when lots of people were trained by a bank and, went and worked in the bank, but didn't necessarily need to have a finance degree to work in a bank. So we need to continue showing people that over lifetimes, a college degree continues to be a major predictor of economic security and success. And many of the people who are raising these questions, frankly, are sending their own kids to colleges, even while they're raising the question about the value of a college education.
Yeah. Do you find that the curriculum or the offerings that you are giving to students now are different in terms of maybe more hands-on experiences, the so-called experiential learning, the relationships with the business community at large? Typically you look at those relationships with traditional land-grant institutions and public schools and those types of things, but increasingly, do you see that in liberal arts institutions like St. Mary's?
Absolutely. And really, we talk about St. Mary's as a liberal arts institution, and we have traditionally been a liberal arts institution and still offer the full range of liberal arts subjects here. We have not, like some institutions, cut our English major or our philosophy major because we still have many students who want to take those classes. And we see students often looking for something that they might major in one subject that has a clear kind of career path, but they might double major in a subject that speaks to their soul. And we enjoy seeing how students put these together. Although sometimes I think they like just making everything add up. They want 2 majors and 3 minors, and they could just do a little bit of exploring as well. At St. Mary's, where we still talk about ourselves as a liberal arts college, our biggest major is nursing, and that is not a liberal arts major. If you added all our business disciplines together, business and economics disciplines, that would be the second highest enrollment at St. Mary's. So we do see that our students they're kind of focused on knowing that there are disciplines that would have a certain outcome and a certain career that they could follow at the end. We also have social work students. We have speech language pathology. So it's not as if we don't have professionally oriented disciplines. We do. But in our liberal arts disciplines, we're working really hard, and this is part of our campaign as well, to create more of those experiential learning opportunities for our students. So for us, that means more students being able to study abroad. It means more students having the opportunity to take an internship that might be in a city where they don't think they can afford to live, but we can give them a grant to live in that place while they pursue that internship. Externship and job shadowing opportunities, and research, frankly, where students who learn to research in a discipline often land a job and sometimes decide that they're going to go on to graduate school in that discipline as well. So we're finding ways to fund those opportunities for our students, which I think is really an important piece of our campaign. And it's an important piece of the kind of direction that St. Mary's is taking right now to not shy away from job opportunity. We used to talk about that like it was a dirty word. We're not preparing students for their first job. We're preparing them for their career when they're a CEO. You have to get the first job before you're the CEO.
Yeah. Is competition for students, is it more intense now than it's been? And is your recruitment strategy, is it different today than maybe it once was for students?
Well, we know that there is a demographic decline in the United States among 18 to 22-year-olds, traditional college going age. And people just kind of stopped having babies during that, or as many babies during the 2008 economic downturn. So right now we're hitting that moment. In fact, we're well into it in the Midwest where there just aren't as many students. So in that sense, yes, there is more competition for students. But it's very hard sometimes to say exactly who is your competition. Because when we look at our competition, we have certainly students who are applying to us and applying to Notre Dame, and they might be applying to one or two other colleges that look like St. Mary's, but they're also applying to the big state university in their state and maybe another state university in another state. So we don't find that there's a clear set of who the competitors are. And so what we have to do is just say, how do we tell the best story about St. Mary's that makes it a compelling place for prospective students? And I have to add, we are a women's college, which means we are competing for only part of our population.
Right.
And a lot of people don't know that most students don't come to women's colleges because they are women's colleges. They come in spite of the fact that we're women's colleges, because they really, they've already been in co-ed high schools or they've been in a single-sex high school and they don't want any more of that. And so we have to, in fact, have a value proposition that is more compelling. They want it more than they don't want the fact that we're a women's college. Now, they graduate loving the fact that they came to a women's college, but we have to kind of get them in the door in order to get them out the door.
Yeah. Well, being a women's college, and you kind of answered it with that last answer, but what's the role of a women's college today? And are students seeking something different from a women's college than they did maybe a decade ago?
Yes, I think they are. And I think, we probably have to go back even more than a decade ago, back in the era we talked about right at the start of our conversation in the 70s. There were 230 women's colleges in this country. Today, there are 31. And only 8 of those are Catholic women's colleges. I think that we can think about that in a downturn sort of way, or we can think of the upside of that. I think of us as one of only 31 colleges in the U.S. who are having their whole goal to be preparing women to lead in complex real-world environments.
Yeah.
We're not saying, well, we try to do that along the way, along with all the other things we're doing. We are head-on focused on that. And so that's part of the proposition that we are putting in front of students. You don't need to compete with a huge population for the leadership roles at St. Mary's. At St. Mary's, every leadership role is for a woman. Every class is filled with other women who tend to have a spirit of cooperation a little bit more than competition. There's some competition too, but there is a sense of helping each other along. There is a sense of being part of a community. And I think our students over their 4 years really grow to understand the powerful experience that they have, because they just are doing something that is very rare in the world today, just breathing and working and living alongside other women.
Yeah. As a university president, you have lots of challenges that probably keep you up at night. But is there one challenge that really is the most daunting challenge for a university president today?
I would say it really is this idea of differentiation. Um, we, as colleges and universities, in some ways, we're always going to be more alike than we're going to be, drastically different. But how to get a message to your own public that you're doing something special and you're doing it in a particular way. And I think that's been one of the things that has perhaps led to this enrollment success that we're enjoying right now, where we've had 16% enrollment growth since 2021. We're up well over 200 students in our total student body, from about 1,381 to over 1,600 this coming fall. And I think part of that has been just a laser focus on saying, what is the message that we want to get out to students? And so we created something called the Avenue Experience, where we're essentially saying to every student, the Avenue is the road that leads into the St. Mary's campus. It's just called capital T, capital A, the Avenue. And we created the Avenue Experience so that we could say, you're going to create your own avenue through the curriculum while you're here. And we want to ensure that that avenue prepares you for all the other avenues you'll take in your life. And the Avenue Experience is very much a curriculum to career experience. So starting even before they come to St. Mary's, they already have an academic advisor, they have a career advisor. In their sophomore year, they get an alumni mentor, they have upper class student advisors, and we really work on ensuring that the kinds of experiences that the students choose are the ones that are going to help them to achieve the goals that are emerging for them during their time at St. Mary's. So I do think that creating this Avenue Experience has been very important for us. Marketing the heck out of it has also been a big piece of it. So, our whole website has been revised. We have beautiful new print materials that are sent to prospective student and family homes. I think that's really important. And then I think the third thing that we've done that has helped us with this distinctiveness idea is that, we've really leaned into our very longstanding relationship with Notre Dame. We've built these pathways into their graduate programs. We've built more clubs and organizations. There are over 500 of them now that are shared, clubs and organizations shared across the 3 campuses here in the tri-campus community. So that really does start to present a unique opportunity. Come to a women's college that is small, intimate. You get personalized attention, and you get as much of that big university experience right across the street, literally across the street, as you want.
Yeah. You mentioned the success at St. Mary's in terms of enrollment, of fundraising, a lot of positives there. But the larger landscape in higher education, you see, challenges. Some institutions actually going out of business.
Yes.
Talk of mergers. What's your take on kind of the landscape of higher education, where you see that kind of shaking out?
Well, just the fact of this demographic decline means we probably have more seats at all these colleges that exist all over the country than there are students remaining for. And some of the places that are large and research focused have had some challenges with changes in the federal landscape to research dollars coming into their institutions. Those big places are saying, how do I make up some of the funding that I used to get from a research base? And they're admitting more students. So we know that some places that have the opportunity to grow are going to say, we're going to seize that opportunity. We're going to continue to grow. So all of us have to kind of keep our eye on how we navigate that enrollment landscape. I think that we've seen institutions close, we've seen institutions merge. A lot of the mergers, I think, have really been more like takeovers than they've been mergers. Not as much a true merger of equals. Often it's a very strong institution that says, we'll let you keep your name, but you're going to become a college of our university, that kind of thing. We're going to see more of that. That's one of the things I think we see in the landscape. We'll see more of that. We'll see more partnerships. I mean, we don't need to have every institution repeat every single program if we can have regional partnerships and we can find ways to leverage the resources that might be in an ecosystem that we already exist in.
Much more ahead with Katie Conboy, the president at St. Mary's College, to talk about her path to the president's office and a lot more when the Business and Beyond podcast returns. Stay with us.
As a bank, PNC prides itself on being boring. But the truth is they couldn't be more excited to serve the dynamic Indianapolis community. For nearly 160 years, they've quietly toiled away to deliver brilliant results for their equally brilliant clients. They have dedicated PNC teams throughout the local area all ready to do the boring work to help you unlock your own brilliance. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. PNC Bank, National Association member FDIC.
We build Indiana. The Laborers International Union of North America are men and women building roads and bridges to get Hoosiers where they're going today and a new energy infrastructure that will keep Indiana competitive tomorrow. LIUNA's over 12,000 statewide members also grow local economies, earning good union wages, shopping where they live and work, and paying taxes. We build Indiana for good jobs and stronger communities. The Laborers International Union of North America. We are LIUNA.
And welcome back to the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. My guest this week is Katie Conboy, the president at St. Mary's College and a leader in the higher education space as well as. And Katie, we talked a little bit about some of the challenges and opportunities facing university presidents these days. And we mentioned the great success of your fundraising campaign, which has just entered the public phase. As a university president, that's got to be near the top, at or near the top of your list in terms of responsibilities, that fundraising piece?
Yes, I mean, securing the future of your institution, certainly that's the legacy every president wants to leave behind. Fundraising is one way to do that, and increasing revenues in other ways is another way to do it. So we talked a little bit already about enrollment growth. Certainly that increases our revenues because tuition and fees is our largest source of revenue, room and board our second, and then the contribution that comes from our endowment. I mentioned that our campaign is largely an endowment campaign. So we are raising, we've already raised about $60 million for scholarships. So that all is in endowed scholarships. And as those numbers grow, we know that it brings more resources into the institution because if you take a 5% draw from your endowment, the three-year rolling average of the value of your endowment, the bigger your endowment gets, the bigger that draw gets. And it's such a wonderful way to point out to people who want to make an education possible for a future student, if they do want to give a scholarship, that as that scholarship grows over time, it'll serve 2 students at some point, and then 3, and then 10. And so we're very grateful to those folks who are interested in helping us by helping us grow the endowment. I didn't mention before when we talked about the relationship with the University of Notre Dame that one of the things we also have through our relationship with Notre Dame is a very truly an incredible investment opportunity, which is that we invest almost our entire endowment with Notre Dame's endowment. So we get the returns that they get, and it allows us to have access to some financial instruments that just would never be available to a small institution. And so that portfolio, the portfolio, I've seen it grow now from invested funds were about 199 my first day. And we'll get the June numbers from Notre Dame at the end of this month. But we have a lot of evidence that we've crossed 400 million in our endowment. And some of that is from gifts to the campaign, but some of that is from this incredible investment growth that has happened as well.
Yeah.
We also invest a portion of our endowment, just very small numbers, with Catholic Investment Services, another great opportunity for pooling funds with other Catholic institutions, and in an organization called Rethink Impact, which is a venture capital fund that is investing in women-owned businesses, primarily in the healthcare and education sectors, which are areas that we prepare students in as well.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Katie. Where did you grow up?
Oh, well, that's a long story, but I'm an Army brat. So I could
Okay.
give you the list of
Multiple
places, but
places,
you
right?
probably
Yeah.
don't need that. But I was born in Buffalo, New York. My dad was from Buffalo. My mom is from a small town in Western New York. They met in Buffalo, and I was born there. But my dad's reserve unit was called up for Berlin Wall crisis in 1961. I was 3, and away we went to the East Coast, a couple places. We lived in Germany several times. And I sometimes say that I think adaptability is a really important feature for a leader to have. And I came by mine by fire.
Yeah. 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 What was it like in that environment and the things you learned and the things maybe you take with you today, you have with you today from that experience growing up?
I think one of the things I learned is that, you moved practically every year, you changed schools, and you looked across a room, and in the beginning you thought, I would like to talk to that kid over there, but I don't know if they want to talk to me. And at some point you did it enough that you knew that everybody wanted somebody to come over and talk to them. And so you could initiate and not be the person who was waiting for that to happen. So I think kind of taking initiative and also holding on to friendships and relationships because we would be maybe in Fort Dix, New Jersey with someone, and it might be 10 years before we were in Heidelberg with them. But there they were again, and their kids were still the same age I was. We were all just a little older. And those relationships remained really important. And so you'd think that maybe people would have fewer roots because they got uprooted so many times. But in some ways, you plant a different kind of root. My husband's from a small island in Canada. Grew up in a place where he was absolutely rooted. Lived in his parents' basement while he went to college, even.
Yeah.
But I had a very different upbringing, and I think it's been great because we have 3 daughters, and they are very adventurous and have lived in many places around the world, and now we see the world sometimes through them.
Yeah. Did you always want to be an educator, or was education always your career path that you envisioned, or how did that come about?
No, I was a pretty late bloomer, and I like to tell students this because I think students sometimes think a college president must have just been born knowing she was going to be a college president.
Right.
And in fact, I sort of woke up when I was in college. I started out pre-med, and it really wasn't for me, but I tried to stick it out a little longer than maybe I even should have. Then I decided, well, I'll major in English, but I'll be pre-law. And then I just fell in love with English. And so I did a PhD in English. And I was in graduate school before I realized that, oh, most people in graduate school want to become professors. I guess that's what I'll do. So I became a professor, and I taught for 13 years at my first institution. And then I was kind of tapped on the shoulder and asked if I would just step in as the academic leader for 6 months. And then it became 18 months. And then I ended up staying in the provost role for 13 years and went on to be provost and senior vice president at yet another university before I came to St. Mary's in 2020.
Yeah. What's the biggest misconception do you think that people have about running a college?
Well, I think sometimes people think that a college isn't a business. And, we're a nonprofit. We're not here to try to maximize revenue beyond what we need. But we also know that a healthy business runs a margin and that we ought to be budgeting to have that margin. And so we work really hard to ensure that we think about the college as a business. Now, faculty and students don't always like to think about it that way, and they don't necessarily like to think that, we have a product that we're selling to people. But sometimes we do talk about the fact that as we think about how we're going to market what we do, the best marketing strategy is a product strategy. And so when we built the Avenue experience, we built that to be the kind of thing that we thought people would say, I'm making an investment in my child's education. This is an investment that will truly be worth it. And so I think there is a misconception that, somehow we're just in an ivory tower and we somehow just generate this wonderful experience for students, and we don't have to actually count the dollars that we have and understand that we need to be able to pay for those experiences that we provide for students. And we need to be thinking about how to grow those opportunities all the time in the same way that most businesses don't say, I'm just fine with this plateau I'm in right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They generally want to grow.
Yeah. Looking to the future, as you look maybe 10 years out, as we've talked about, a lot of positive things going on with fundraising, student enrollment, things that would suggest maybe this could be a transformational period for St. Mary's College. As you look, say, 10 years into the future, what does St. Mary's College become? What do you see? What is your vision for the college?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I think we aren't trying to become something radically different than we are. We want to become a better version of ourselves. And I think for us, that means being able to serve more students with the St. Mary's education that we provide. We believe in what we do. We believe it's transformational. And so we want to give access to more students. And so I think part of what we're focused on is how we provide that access. And then we're also focused on how we ensure that once a student gets access to St. Mary's, she also gets access to all those opportunities at St. Mary's. Because there's really if a student gets here and she can't take advantage of some of the things that are happening at the college, and she can't afford to buy professional clothing for an interview, or her parents can't come for a family weekend, it doesn't really make sense for us to be recruiting a student who can't enjoy all those opportunities. So that's why we're so focused on those opportunities, in the experiential realm for our students as we move ahead. And I think we are looking to grow. We see a path to about 2,000 students, about 1,850 undergrad students, 150 graduate students. So St. Mary's does have several small graduate programs, a Doctor of Nursing practice, a Master's in Nursing. We have a Master of Social Work, Master of Speech Language Pathology, Master of Data Science. So I also think one of the things we want to do in the coming years is really think about what that graduate footprint should look like. These health-related professions make a lot of sense to me because serving someone who's already a nurse by advancing her in her nursing career, that's a great thing to do. Ensuring that the student who majors in, gets a Bachelor of Social Work can get a Master of Social Work here. We do that on an accelerated pathway for that student. So I want us to be looking at these graduate programs that we're offering, making sure that's the right portfolio of offerings, and then really having more of a philosophy about why we are in the graduate programs that we're in, and how do we scale them. We're in if they're not online, then there's a limited audience for them in Michiana. So I think we're trying to also do some of that online with some judicious immersion experiences that give them the students a sense of the campus.
Katie Conboy is the president at St. Mary's College. Katie, it's been a real treat to have you on the podcast and to catch up with you and to hear really the amazing things going on at the school that so many people know of, and your leadership, I know, is having a real impact there. So thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Gerry. Great to be with you, and thank you.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Business and Beyond podcast presented by PNC. We are a weekly conversation with achievers in business, sports, education, entertainment, and beyond. And you can download all of our episodes and get Indiana business news 24/7. All you have to do is go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. I'm Gerry Dick. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Whether it's healthcare innovation, major infrastructure, or global sports impact, Inside Indiana Business with Gerry Dick tells the stories of Indiana's groundbreakers and game changers. It's the must-listen show for business, civic, and community leaders across the state. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts or at ibjpodcast.com.
Your commute just got smarter. Turn drive time into growth time. The IBJ Media Podcast Network gives you front row access to leaders shaping Indiana's economy, culture, and future. No filler, just smart, relevant, local storytelling you won't get anywhere else. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.